Ethan Whaley, and you are an assistant at Indiana Wesleyan. And that an NAIA Division II, correct?
Yep, you got it.
Okay, great. And you guys were national champs the year before this last one, correct?
Yep, 2014.
Okay, awesome. How was that season, if you could just, describe it a little bit?
Man, it was a pretty cool experience. Obviously, anybody that has won a national championship, I'm sure would say the same thing. So I'm not saying anything spectacular there, but it was just a cool run with a great group of guys. That season we finished 31-6. We finished 15-3 in our league, and we won it for 6th time in a row at that point. Last year, obviously, we won it and made it 7 in a row. But that team was very probably the most special team I've been a part of in my short career so far. We had 2 incredible leaders that had been here 4 years, and then we kind of paired them with an Indiana State transfer who actually started for Indiana State for a couple of seasons. He was averaging, I think, around 10 points a game, and
wow.
He just came for his senior season. And part of it was, he just wanted a different type of experience than he had gotten at Indiana State. But another part was his younger brother was a freshman that year, and they had never been able to play together. So an opportunity to play with his brother was also
that's very cool.
Draw for him. So it was neat to kind of culminate the season, obviously, and culminate this particular guy's career with a hug on the bench with his brother after the game was kind of sealed, and they both came off the court. So all in all, it was such a special year.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then this last year, you guys were actually, and mistake me if I'm wrong, but you guys were 30-3.
33-3.
33-3. Okay.
Yeah. What's the difference, right?
Right.
This was a little bit different. The year we won it, we were in the top 10 all year.
Mm-hmm.
We went through a couple slumps here and there, and at one point that year, we're like, man, I don't even know if we're going to make it to the national tournament. We may not even win our league. Well,
yeah. When
you face adversity, we always talk to our guys. You can go 2 ways. You can just continue down that path of maybe a little bit of a struggle or give up, or you can persevere, fight through it, and see where it leads from there. And so that's what happened. And then this past year, it was very different because we were ranked number 1 all throughout the season, preseason, and then all the way into the national tournament. We were number 1. And like you said, we lost 3 games all year. So it was different. Our teams never really felt like backs against the wall, and we won our league, we won our conference tournament. We felt really good going into Branson, and, there's a lot of good teams out there.
Oh, yeah.
They don't care what number is in front of you on the bracket, whether you're 1 or 32, they're going to come get you. And so we kind of got hit by a really good, really tough Davenport team.
Mm-hmm.
So we tipped our caps to them, man. They played well, and obviously Dominez Burnett was National Player of the Year, but they had so many other guys that stepped up.
Yeah. With like a very successful, back-to-back season like that at IWU, 30 wins, basically 2 years in a row, what would be, goals that you guys have moving into, let's say this next season coming off, 2 very, very successful seasons?
That's a great question. If I can, I'll kind of go back and kind of give you the themes that we've tried to instill the last couple of years. So going into the year that we won the national championship, we felt like we needed to, as a staff, kind of change our mentality and then let it trickle down to the players. And we came into the year with this theme of fearless, play fearless. And for our guys, what that kind of looked like was, don't be afraid to miss this shot. We had a kid that 2 years ago led the country in three-point field goal percentage at almost 50%. But there were times throughout his career where I don't want to, speak for him and say he was afraid of missing, but there were times that he didn't shoot the ball when he needed to, and it really did appear like, okay, if I'm afraid to miss this shot, and then it could translate to another guy who's afraid to make this pass because he may turn it over. Whatever the case may be, we wanted our guys to play fearless. And when you're fearless, that leads to freedom on the court. As a staff, I think any coach and even player can identify with, sometimes there's coaches that if you take a bad shot, you're pulled right away. You're getting yanked. And I don't want you to misunderstand and think, oh, yeah, guys, just shoot it whenever you want.
Right.
That's not what our message was at all. But our message was, let's get a great shot, but who cares if you miss it? Because if that's a great shot, that's what our team needs. And throughout the course of the season, that mentality really played out, obviously, all the way through the national tournament. Our team played it with a fearless mentality, and it paid off. So then coming into this year, we had a lot of young guys. You know, in that national championship run, we had 3 freshmen that played significant minutes, and then a couple of juniors. So all those guys returned, brought in 2 transfers. One of them he's an IU transfer this past season. So he was a really good point guard. He ended up being a first-team All-American for us.
Oh, wow.
Year. So, again, it was like, you know, we're bringing all these guys in. A couple of them won the national championship, but they're just still pretty unexperienced, you know, as a whole. And then we had several new guys. So our mindset was poor, hungry, and driven. You know, we kind of heard that from a couple different speakers. We read about it in some books. And really the message was, look, guys, we're not going to baby you. You're not going to be given anything in this season. You got a target on your back. So
absolutely.
we need to prepare in the off season and prepare for our season as if you've got nothing and that you've done nothing, and so you're hungry and that you're driven to continue to work. So that, you know, that was unbelievable for us. And obviously we didn't win the national championship, but man, did we have a really good year.
Oh, yeah.
And we felt like our guys really took on that PhD, as we called it, and really identified with that. And then, you know, as a staff this year, we sat down and we prayed and we met as a group several times, and we had someone come in and give us a devotion out actually in Branson at our national tournament. And he talked about elevating the quo, you know, and so what that basically means is the status quo, you know, everybody kind of coasts or whatever, it's natural, and we want to kind of be above that. We don't want to just do what everyone else is doing. We want to elevate the standard. And so we've kind of come up with this elevate the quo. Starting in June, all of our guys are on campus in June, and they'll pick a summer class, and we get to work them out and practice with them and stuff. And that's when we'll really start to instill this elevate the quo mindset, you know, with everything that we do. So we're excited to see how that plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like, you know, obviously just from on the court, you know, very successful basketball team, but it also sounds like, you know, you and the staff do a really good job of, you know, not only saying, hey, you know, Indiana Wesleyan, you know, obviously back-to-back, you know, winning seasons, very successful program on the court, but you guys have a pretty good program in place to kind of make sure that the student-athlete's, you know, well-rounded, kind of really gets the full, you know, college experience, but also, you know, growth experience as well.
Absolutely. I'm so fortunate as an assistant coach, as well as our players would say the same, to work for such an incredible leader in Coach Greg Conagle. You know, he played at Valparaiso University. He made it to 4 NCAA tournaments, so he understood and experienced success at a high level. And then from here, you know, he's just unbelievable vision caster, I guess, for a lack of a better term.
No, that's great, yeah.
He's very passionate about developing young men, like you said. And, you know, we always tell our guys, let's begin with the end in mind. Who cares? You know, 4 years from now, you might have won a national championship in basketball, but that's not going to really help you in the business world or whenever you graduate.
Right.
When we begin with the end in mind, we begin with, okay, let's instill the principles that our culture has been based upon, and this will eventually lead them to be successful husbands, to be successful fathers, to be successful men in the community, in their churches, or wherever they may go. And so, you know, as a staff, Coach Donegal makes it very clear every single year, you know, that we are coaches, but we're also trying to disciple men and build up young leaders to impact our campus, our community, and eventually their community as they leave our program.
I think that's a good message. You know, I think that a lot of times, you know, younger guy going through the recruiting process kind of feels like they're looking at a college just from a basketball, you know, experience standpoint. And I think that it is really important to kind of remember that, you know, you're going to be 18 to, you know, 22, maybe 23 years old in college, kind of some very, you know, big developmental years. And then, you know, you graduate and all of a sudden, you know, you're in that real world, you know, and you kind of have to have that preparation and, you know, feel confident, you know, have some good background, good foundation. So I think that, you know, a lot of times that does go lost, and it's good to hear, you know, kind of a little bit about your program and how they do, you know, really do a nice job of building that guy up. I have to ask you, you know, some just basic recruiting questions, if that's okay with you. When you guys recruit, what are just some basic things, you know, kind of from an initial standpoint that you'd look for in a recruit?
Everybody does it different, so I want to make sure and start off and say we don't feel like we're the masters of recruiting or that we've got it figured out. everybody makes mistakes. We make mistakes in evaluations. But where we feel like we've had a little bit of success in recent years, this is Coach Donegal just finished his 10th season. And with that, he's won 8 conference championships, 7 in a row, so 8 out of the last 9 years.
Oh, wow.
We've been at the top of the league. So he's done a great job recruiting long before I got here.
Yeah.
But what we felt like has kind of helped us even improve in this area is about 4 years ago, we sat down as a staff and we kind of took a collective view of, okay, let's look at our great players that we've had, in the early stages of Coach Donegal's career, and what were the common themes or the common traits in those guys. And so aside from, okay, he can really shoot it or he's a great rebounder, aside from the basketball skills, we tried to find some intangibles that might have been unique to some of the great players in our program.
Okay.
And we narrowed it down to 3. One is motor. How hard does a guy play? Second is toughness. Is this guy, and we're not looking for a guy that will just go beat somebody up. We're looking for a guy who mentally never gets rattled. We're looking for a guy who, when his team needs a bucket, he's going to go get it. And that can translate in so many different ways, depending on the position and skill set. But, that's our staff. That's one thing. And then the last thing is unselfishness. We talked a lot about creating for a teammate within our offense with our guys. Every season we start first practice, we sit down and say, okay, guys, we're going to play fast. We're going to be our motion offense in the half court. But regardless of transition, regardless of a set we run or in our motion, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to create for a teammate. So, I talked about that shooter that maybe was a little bit afraid to shoot. Well, you're shooting 50% from the field. If you don't shoot it, your man won't have to guard you, and then that doesn't open up the floor for our post players. So he's creating for a teammate by shooting the ball. We've got some guards that get in the lane and, make a pass, but sometimes they need to shoot it. Regardless, creating for a teammate, creating an opportunity for your teammate to be successful is the overall goal. And so getting back to the third, unselfishness, that's what that is. We're evaluating, does this kid make others around him better, or is he just working on getting his? I'm sure you've seen in AAU events, and this is nothing against the kids, but just kind of the culture and the mindset is scouts want to see me score. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And again, I don't diss anyone or speak poorly upon anyone, but that's just probably not the guy that's going to fit in our program.
I think that when I talk to some of our student athletes, one thing I tell them is that if we're looking at film and, you're sending your film out to some colleges, one thing that they're really going to want to see is if you compete. And I think that kind of goes along with your motor, aspect of the recruit. When you get from high school to college, these college guys, they don't necessarily care, what you did in high school, no matter how good you were. And when you step onto the college court, they're going to get after you.
Yeah.
You got to be ready you got to be really ready to compete, play hard, just because the college game is, so much faster and everybody's playing hard defense, everyone's getting in you. So, that's, I think the motor part, and the competitive part is definitely something that I, would tell a recruit as well. You just got to be playing hard, working hard, competing, and I think that is something that really stands out.
Yeah, I see it all the time. Even in the NBA, there's all these guys that have potential. That's the big buzzword is he's got potential. Well, if he doesn't have a consistent motor and if he's not consistently tough, well then, what good is that potential? So the smaller intangibles are what we try to evaluate and, try to capitalize on those.
Nice. My last question for you is, if you were talking to a group of high school students and you could just give them, let's say, 2 to 3 words of advice on some do's and some don'ts with recruiting, what would you say to them?
So often in today's culture, and I remember when I was in high school, it was the same thing. It's, I want to go Division I. I have to go Division I, or else I'm a failure. And it's just so sad to see that. Again, I can identify with that. Our whole staff can, because we were caught up in that culture. We grew up there. But what I would say is find a school, and everybody's going to tell you this, find a school that's the best fit for you. Like you may go to a Division I, but just hate your experience. Or not have as good of an experience as you could have at a
play too much
school. Yeah. Or just like just kind of be stuck behind some players and maybe even just be around a group of guys that you just don't mess with. But out of high school, you just said, I don't care who I'm playing with. I want to go Division I. And so, we've kind of established this mindset of when you're born, you don't get to choose your family. You're born into a certain family.
Of course.
But when you go to play basketball in college or play any sport, you get to choose your family. This is an opportunity where, okay, I'm going to be around these guys for 4 or 5 years. Every morning, I'm going to sleep with them because I room with them, and then we're going to travel together. I mean, you're around these guys all the time, so you got to pick somebody or pick a group of guys that you mesh with and that you fit with. Because if not, I don't care how many wins you have, you're not going to enjoy your experience as much as you could.
Absolutely.
And just to go along with that, Julian, we've had a lot of success with these Division I transfers that I mentioned. We got the Indiana State kid, the IU guy, and actually this summer a few weeks ago, just got a commitment from a Wright State transfer. He was an Indiana All-Star.
Oh, wow.
All these guys went Division I, and we don't fault them for that, but what they said was the common theme is, it's just not what I thought it was. And that's not speaking poorly of the university or the basketball programs at those schools. It's just that's what they've told us. And so
just their own
do your
experience.
research. Yeah, exactly. There's some guys that love it at those schools. So we don't speak poorly on that, but just if they could go back, I really think they would have done a little bit more homework and maybe taken a few more visits and really gotten to know the players as opposed to just to Division I school and I've got an offer I've got to take.
Right.